You're listening to the Spark Radio Network.
Wake up, America. I think I got something to say to you. I say this every week. I love the United States of America, and I want you to love the United States of America too. Office Hours with Dr. A is not a safe space, so enter at your own risk. You will be exposed to the truth, and I will endure the consequences. Again, rest assured, I will not try to put my brain into your head. I will, however, motivate you to think and to use the analytical part of your brain that very few people want to use because it requires actual effort, it requires actual work.
You've reached the office of Dr. Randy Arrington. Please have a seat, and the doctor will be with you in just a moment.
Hey, good afternoon, America, and hopefully some of the internet listeners all around the world. You have entered into that unsafe space, my office hours, Dr. A's office hours. On the line with me, she is every week, is Lou Esposito. She's the producer, my sidekick, and of course, as you know, I've given her the honorary tactical naval aviator call sign, Wench, because she doesn't take crap from anybody. Lou, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning, or good afternoon.
Yeah, and I'm excited to be here. I hope your Christmas went well. You probably had lots of guests and lots of rattling of those pots and pans out in the kitchen. Is that true or not?
Yeah, I still have company right now. They're still here.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I've got, before we get going here, I want to just since this is not a safe space, I want to issue this warning to JD and Miss Stacy. If you're listening out there, I hope you are. I want you both to try and keep up with Dr. A today. That's my warning to you. You think they'll take to that kindly, or?
I'm sure you'll hear about it.
All right. So we're last week we talked about winning the war against Islam. I kind of started this two-part series on the air here about Islam and the heinous bloody war we're fighting right now, and there's a whole bunch of people, Lou, that don't even understand it, don't know it, don't care. We talked about that offline. They don't care because they think it doesn't affect them, and it may not affect them right now because they're buffered by some of Mr. Obama's welfare policies. The media is spinning things and lying to them constantly. So some of these people don't even know that this is happening, or the profound effect it could possibly have on their personal well-being and existence should we lose the war against Islam. All you have to do, go ahead.
Can I tell you what really upsets me
Yes.
about the whole thing is some of the, you talked a lot about cultural Marxism and how this affects what we're doing with as far as the war against Islam, but the same people who are rail against a war on women support this idea that we should embrace Islam, Sharia law in this country and be tolerant of it. So how can we be intolerant of people in our own country saying, any little negative thing that may be misconstrued as sexist, but
right.
Support a law, a type of law, a legal system that is targeted against women?
Tolerance, I mentioned this last week. Listen to me, people. Learn from Dr. A. Tolerance is the last virtue of a decaying and dying society. And that's exactly what's happening right now.
But beyond that, so they're not tolerant. They're only tolerant of things that I don't even know. I can't even wrap my head around it. Why would you be tolerant of such a violent legal system that's targeted at women? When we start, if Sharia law is embraced in this country, that means that women are prosecuted for being raped.
People in this country think the war on women is because some individuals, mostly from the right, the conservative sectors of our society, speak up and voice their opposition to all sorts of stuff that the women want. They want free birth control. They want you and me to pay for their birth control, $10 a month at Walmart. They want free abortions on demand.
And they want us to be tolerant of a law that prosecutes women for being raped.
Right. When people speak up against that, they think that's a war on women. Today, people listening out there, I sent a couple of links to when she refused to look at them because she knows what they are. Mm-hmm. And I watched them because I have to. And I'm still just completely shocked at this stuff that I see, that the media and your politicians and the politicians all over the earth will whitewash so that you don't get to see it. Or if you do get to see it, they'll say it was doctored. It was just two examples of horrible actual wars against women. Right now in Sweden has now become the rape capital of the world. And this guy was talking about all these different episodes of different Muslim men from Africa or from the third world, Middle East, coming over there. And they're coming over there in droves because they have unfettered free immigration, just come across. And they got nowhere to put them anymore, nowhere to house them. But they walk down the street and they pick out women to rape, and it's happening every single day, numerous times a day. It is part of their culture, people. I was kind of reminded of that Seinfeld episode where they talked about the contest, where they were going to have that contest, see who could last the longest without self-gratifying themselves. Of course, they made Elaine pay double because they said it's part of our lifestyle. We have to do it. Now, that might sound funny, but you know what? I just told you, this type of culture, this war against women, this unfettered rape and do whatever they want against women, because women are nothing but chattel. Women are property. It's part of their culture. It's part of their lifestyle. And you want to bring that here? Just wait until your 3-year-old or your 14-year-old daughter is raped by a group of Muslim men. Then we'll see how you feel about the war against women that is so trumped up and made up in this country by the leftists.
And the sad thing
infuriates me.
Yeah, and the sad thing is that little boys aren't off limits either.
No, they're not. And the one video was the other video I sent you was a 27-year-old woman in Afghanistan who was merely accused of burning part of a Quran. Accusation. This was at some shrine, some alleged shrine they had in Afghanistan. A mob crowd quickly surrounded this woman and stoned her to. They sort of interrogated her for a little while. They ripped off her hijab, whatever they call that thing they wear, and they stoned her and beat her with 2x4 boards to death, and then set her body on fire, and then left her out for the dogs to eat. I heard the people talking a lot that way. That, people, is a war against women. Guess what? 2 days later, the authorities in Afghanistan said she was innocent of that accusation. That's a war against women, people. You have no clue, no idea how good you have it in my beloved United States of America. You really don't. And you get whipped up all the time by your so-called heroes. Pity you that needs a hero. Pity you if you need a hero. There's heroes everywhere. Your mother was a hero, hopefully. Your dad was a hero, putting food on that table for you growing up so you could go to Yale or Berkeley and then badmouth your professors and badmouth this country.
And that's a really good point.
That's a war on women.
And that's a really good point, because we don't give the real heroes in our life credit, and we look for people to save us. And it's
I think I tease JD and Stacy and Jody and Diane, Jared. I think they're heroes as part of if you want to call it the alternative media, which you and I are part of, out there having the guts, Lou, having the courage to speak the truth. And they get extorted.
Oh yeah, we endure a lot of consequences. Yeah.
Well, they're heroes as well. Trust me on this, people. Let's talk about this. Well, I told you that the United States right now and the Western world is at war with Islam, and we are. And I'm telling you how we're going to beat Islam and get an unconditional surrender and drive them back into their little caves, back under their rocks, so they crawl out from underneath, at least temporarily, because they've been fighting this bloody war for 1,400 years. The first tactic, the first thing we have to understand is we have to recognize that our president, Barack Hussein Obama, is a traitor, and that he represents that identification represents the first sort of unpleasant step that we as Americans must take on this path to ultimate victory, recognizing that he is a traitor. Number two, America, like always, must take the lead in this war against Islam. Our leadership is always required. That's step number two. We must take the lead. Well, that's not happening right now with Mr. Obama riding his bicycle. Number three, we have to tell the American people that we are indeed fighting a war against Islam. We have to make them fully understand this truth. And then number four, that we identified last week, we have to identify the enemy. It is Islam. I don't care what everybody else says. I get denigrated. It is about Islam. There's no such thing as radical Islam or moderate, peaceful Islam. There's only Islam. Listen to Dr. Ray. We are at war with Islam and its motivating commandments of continuous, bloody, heinous warfare against Islam, against infidels. Peaceful Muslims are irrelevant, Lou. Peaceful Muslims are irrelevant in this war, just as peaceful German citizens and peaceful Japanese citizens were irrelevant during World War II. That's the absolute truth. Now let's continue here with the rest of my prescription for winning this war against Islam. Number five, we have to boldly assert to the world our God-given right as Americans to defend ourselves against any enemy, foreign or domestic, engaging in Islamic jihad. And that all of our enemies forfeit their rights entirely during this war. Americans and citizens of Western nations, the West, must boldly acknowledge and announce that we have an absolute God-given right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. And this includes our right to self-defense and self-determination. This means we and our allies are lawfully authorized to do whatever is necessary, people, to eliminate any and all threats posed by regimes, groups, or individuals that seek to murder us or otherwise violate our natural rights. Although Muslims have the right, believe me, they have the right to believe whatever they want to believe, including the nonsense that Allah exists and is the source of truth and moral law, or that Muhammad is their so-called prophet. But they do not have the right to act on their beliefs if doing so involves committing murder or other violating the natural God-given rights of mankind.
So let's stop there for a minute.
Okay.
I think that's a really, really important point, and it deserves to be driven home. They have the right to believe in worship. They do
Correct.
not have any right whatsoever on God's green earth to hurt others.
That's correct. They don't have the right to their Sharia law does not trump, as an example, the American Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Does not.
But there are plenty of people in this country that would have us embrace Sharia law, let them live by Sharia law, which means that the honor killings in this country couldn't be prosecuted.
Those people are stupid, and to quote Ron Wright, you can't fix stupid. They are a whole new level of a special kind of stupid, and you can't fix that.
Right.
We're trying. JD and Stacey are trying. You know what? We're trying to educate people. That's the only reason I do this show. I don't do it for money or fame or notoriety or anything. I do it hopefully that maybe Lou and I can reach some people and at least make them think. Hopefully teach some people the truth. Make them maybe reassess what they thought was the truth, because they've been lied to. Cultural Marxism, which is the tool of political correctness, is the tool of cultural Marxism. It's also used by CARE and the rest of the apologists for Islam. It makes people think that the lies are the truth and the truth are lies. That's what they want. They want to confuse you. A lot of people are easily confused. And if you can make people believe that a lie is the truth, boy, you've just gained a tremendous ally in your fight against the truth. I don't want people to believe lies. I want them to understand the difference between the truth and the lies. That's the only reason that I'm doing this show. And there are some people, Lou, that you will not ever reach. I don't think Mrs. Clinton, which we're going to talk about as a sociopath and a pathological liar in the coming weeks, can be reached. You know what? I actually think she knows the truth, but she is so deeply invested in her lies with a 47% of the Americans, like Romney was talking about, that she can't disavow what she's spouting as the truth. She knows their lies. I truly believe that, as does Barack Hussein Obama.
You took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to make the point that I don't think for a second that they think that they are lying, or that they think that they're not lying. I think that they know very well what they say is not the truth, but they have an agenda and they have a reason for saying it, so they're going to say it anyway. And I just challenge people to really look very closely at what they're hearing through this election cycle, and whether or not it makes sense. Don't fall for just what you want to hear.
Obama and Clinton are nothing but, they're tantamount to old Wild West snake oil salesmen. Mm-hmm. Only what they're selling won't just make you violently ill and make you throw up. What they're selling will destroy your life and your country, and you can't see it, people. You've got to wake up and understand that what we're telling you is the absolute truth. You know, although Muslims have the right, again, to believe whatever they want to believe, they don't have the right to violate your God-given rights. The very idea of a right to violate the rights of other human beings is a patent contradiction in terms. And although human rights are inalienable, they are, however, not unrelinquishable. You can give up your rights. A person can relinquish his or her rights by violating the rights of others. That's why we have prisons and punishments. Jihadi terrorists and the entities that support them have forfeited their human rights entirely. John Locke, who was Lou's favorite state of nature political philosopher, John Locke taught us that any person, listen to me, people, listen to John Locke, learn from John Locke. Any person who violates the laws of nature has given up their natural rights, and it is the duty of every other human being to remove them from civilized society. In other words, it's our right and our obligation to cut that cancer out of civilized society.
And it wasn't it wasn't argued when it was Hitler, and I do not see the difference.
There is no difference.
Right.
Except I think they're more heinous than Hitler. Hitler learned from them. Did you know that? The mullahs went to Germany and taught Hitler about the Jews. Yeah. Right.
Well, exactly. And very few people know. I mean, you're getting into really the minutiae of the history there that 99.9% of people just don't know, and that's part of the problem.
Are you handling me?
A little bit. You want let's take a break and let you rest your voice, because you're very passionate this afternoon, right. And you're gonna run out of steam.
You think JD and Stacey are keeping up with this line of argument? I know Diane and Jody are, but
yeah, I'm gonna let JD take that one up with you. All right, we'll be right back.
K98Talk.com, a leader in Internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberal conservatism.
Where no one is safe and no one is spared. Not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right round.
Ebola radio strikes again.
Anyway,
Anybody see the host monkey?
Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote.
Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com. The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely.
All right, we're back, and just for the record, my Christmas present was not a Saturday night special, Doc, but it is a Ruger 9mm.
Oh, you know what, Lou? When we, as Americans, kill the radical, violent, murderous Muslims in retaliation for their heinous behavior, their vile behavior, we do not violate their rights, because we cannot violate a right that has ceased to exist. So that's number 5 on how to win the war against Islam. Number 6, explain and make certain that the American people know exactly what victory, total victory, looks like for our nation.
We win, they lose.
We win, they lose, Ronald Reagan said. America and the West cannot win this war if we do not know exactly what victory looks like and its true meaning. If we want to win this war, we must define victory, and we must do so in a manner that specifies what is necessary for all of us to defeat and annihilate this Islamic scourge and return to a normal, jihad-free lifestyle. Victory looks like this, people: elimination of all Islamic regimes that have in any way sponsored or supported jihadist attacks against America and the Western nations. Elimination of all known jihadist groups and individuals that have attacked, supported, or encouraged assaults against America or the Western nations. Only when this two-part goal is achieved can we return to a normal, again, jihadi-free lifestyle. Only then will this war against Islam be won. Number 7, utilize, listen to what I'm telling you, all of the weapons in our military arsenal to defeat this Islamic jihadi enemy. Right now, our commander-in-chief, the Islamo-communist in the White House, I guess he's in Hawaii right now, is not using all of our weapons. In fact, he's not even allowing our F-18 and F-35, or whatever, I guess F-35 is not available yet, but our F-22 guys, F-16s, they're not even allowed to drop their bombs. 80% of them come back. They come back without dropping their bombs,
And
Lou.
this is my biggest problem with what he's doing, and I have a lot of problems with a lot of things. They're deploying special forces into harm's way and not giving them appropriate rules of engagement that actually puts them in more danger. They're flying sorties over areas that, with the Russians involved and the Turkish military involved and all of these different military that are involved. Those pilots are flying into harm's way, yet not doing what they're trained to do. They're coming back with 70% on average or higher of the ordnance is still strapped to their planes. And I'm sorry, I know that's not the right term, but they're not actually strapped. But we're putting our best in harm's way for nothing. And the message from the White House is not a protracted war, and we don't want to lose American... Well, you know what? If you don't want to lose American lives, give them appropriate rules of engagement and let them drop their freaking bombs.
Right. The naval aviator in his tactical jet is strapped to the jet. The weapons are attached to the jet. It reminds me of my CAG, I think it was CAG 2, Air Wing 2. The commander, the Air Wing commander, was named, his call sign was Spine Ripper. His actual name was Captain John Waples. At one point, he had more traps than anybody on Earth. He died in I guess with a pickup truck accident a few years ago. But Spine Ripper used to tell us, if you come back to the aircraft carrier with weapons, with hung bombs, with weapons still on your airplane, pick up a heading of 270 until you run out of gas. There are no hung bombs in CAG 20. We put our weapons on target.
Explain that. That means don't land, keep flying.
That's right. Keep flying until you run out of gas, because we wouldn't accept you back on the ship.
Do not put that plane down on this ship if you still have bombs attached. Period.
Exactly. I don't think the bike rider would allow that. But now, which array of tactics, strategies, and weaponry will best serve the purpose of defeating Islam and the regimes that support the terrorist jihadi groups that have attacked us is a matter for military experts, the admirals and the generals, to decide. All of the thinking, planning, and decision-making in this regard should be guided by the principle that our respective governments and militaries have a moral obligation to eliminate the regimes and the jihadists who have attacked us. Did you hear what I said? A moral obligation to get rid of them. That's what John Locke taught us. We must adopt a brutal strategy against this vile enemy that will bring an end, a quick end to hostilities, so as to minimize combat risk to our soldiers and lessen wartime casualties, both military and civilian casualties. When I used to plan strikes, I mentioned this last week, we used to have to detail, because the civilian political overlords didn't want civilian casualties. So we had to show them how we would make sure that when we dropped our bombs, there'd be no civilian casualties. Let me just tell you something, people. Again, I mentioned this last week. No war in history has ever been won without killing some of the enemy's civilians. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. America's military alone, Winch, could wipe out this Islamic enemy in a matter of days. Again, I told you we go patent on their rear end. If the civilian overlords allowed our Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines to engage this enemy in the brutal, all-out warfare that they deserve in retaliation for their jihad against America, and by giving what you just said, giving our soldiers proper rules of engagement that doesn't tie their hands behind their back, we could wipe them out in a matter of days. I know it. You know it. I think Obama knows it, and so does ISIS. They know it. But for some reason, it's not happening. And the reason is because Mr. Obama is one of them. He's aiding and abetting them, people. He is a traitor. Refer back to number 1. Islam and Islamic jihad and the war against Islam persists only because American politicians and the leaders of the Western nations are basically cowards or collaborators. And they have made the conscious choice not to end it. Again, I mentioned that Mr. Obama and his presidential administration, this includes you, Mrs. Clinton, are traitors. They commit treason every week. This, of course, is a moral atrocity. Permitting the enemy to remain in existence, Lou, is like permitting known serial killers to freely roam the streets of our innocent neighborhoods. It is sheer insanity when viewed from the perspective of traditional American and Western values.
So here's just one thing I want to throw in there. There are 10,
I like it when you throw me wrenches.
Yeah, so it's equivalent to letting serial killers roam our neighborhoods. There are 10,000 visa holders with expired visas who were determined to be, or revoked visas because they were determined to be terrorist or a terrorist risk or suspected terrorist, yet they're roaming the country, 10,000 roaming the country, and the administration hasn't or refuses to round them up or has lost track of them or doesn't know. Well, so the analogy is reality.
That's correct. And he's not doing it because Mr. Obama, as the Islamic communists have a drink, is one of them. Also, I told you I worked in the federal government my whole life, with the exception of the United States naval aviation aspect of it. 80% of the people working in the federal government bureaucracies are incompetent to do the job that they are currently in. I'm telling you, it's the Pareto principle is alive and well. If you view this behavior that you mentioned from Obama's perspective, that as an Islamic communist who seeks to destroy America, foment revolution, and instigate a fundamental transformation, to use his words, of our nation, then all this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's a great strategy.
I don't view it from that perspective, Lou.
I think that he's not he has a strategy, and he's carrying it out, and it's not what we want, and it's not transparent, and he won't tell us what it is, but he's accomplishing it. He's getting there with intent.
He's got both witting and unwitting accomplices to treason, heinous treason. Mm-hmm. And I told you that's the only way that we'll collapse. Number 8 in my prescription here, continue to engage in diplomacy with the entire Muslim world, encouraging them to establish human rights-based governments. Although Dr. A. personally believes that diplomacy is just a big lie and a phony deception, ergo the entire institution of the UN and our State Department is nothing but crap. This phony deception, it allows our enemy time to restock and rearm. Some civilized discussion, I'll give you this, some civilized discussion between wartime enemies needs to occur. After America and the West totally annihilates our Islamic enemy and all the regimes that sponsor their brand of totalitarianism, we need to fully explain to Muslims all over the world that we will never again tolerate jihadi terror, no matter what their Quran or their Hadith commands them to do with the infidels. We want to live in peace and harmony with you. We do. But jihad is now and forever forbidden on earth. The message is this: cease jihad or you die.
I think that's a great message. Can I clarify? Yeah, can I clarify that a little bit? I want to live
jihad or you shall die.
No, I want to live in peace with peaceful people.
Yes.
I have no desire to try to live in peace with violent people because it doesn't work.
I told you last week. I think that Muhammad is basically he's not a prophet from God. He's Satan's emissary, and he created 1.6 billion other emissaries from Satan. And it comes straight from, and as does Allah, the moon god that he picked from the other 359 to be God. But you got to cease jihad or you die. You must repudiate all forms of rule by Islamic or Sharia law. And then you must establish governments that respect God-given individual rights. I want to live with you in peace. But if you come after me as the sheepdog that I am, I'm going to make sure that you are violently stopped from what you are doing. It doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily kill you. I may have to, but I'm going to do whatever I have to make you stop from doing what you're doing to self-respecting innocent individuals, me included. You must have complete separation of Islam and the governing apparatus of your nation state or your community. And then I'll live with you in peace and harmony, Lou. Cease jihad or die. Number 9, we have to make certain that the enemy jihadists and any government that sponsors them or group that sponsors them know that they are going to be held fully responsible, Lou, for all the carnage that results from our combat operations against their heinous aggression. This is a matter of what is called the law of causality. He who initiates physical force against people is indeed morally responsible for any and all death and destruction caused by the retaliatory force that he thereby necessitates against his actions. Islam, the jihadists, and their sponsoring nation states and groups are therefore fully responsible for all of the retaliatory consequences. They speak the lies, they engage in this heinous behavior, they must endure the consequences. Dr. A speaks the truth and then endures the consequences, of which there are many. They speak lies and engage in satanic warfare. Therefore, they are fully responsible, morally responsible, for all of the consequences that take place in retaliation. How do you like that, Lou?
I like that, but I want to clarify that you're not just pulling this, they're Satan's emissaries out of your head. It's their behavior that's led you to believe that. The beheadings, the rapes, there's something. If those things happened within any other cultural group, any other religious group in the U.S., we would chase them down, prosecute them, call them what they are, serial killers, Satanists, whatever, and put them in jail.
I thought you were going to say I pulled it out of my hind end, not my brain.
Not on the radio.
Yes. No, you're right. That sort of behavior takes place in the United States and in civilized countries, but what do? We take Locke's advice. Like you said, we hunt them down, we catch them, we identify what they are to the people, we take them to our justice system, and they receive justice.
Yes.
Which might be the death penalty. It might be 10 years, 40 years, life in prison, whatever it might be. We remove them from civilized society because that's what we are supposed to do from a moral perspective.
For much less.
They've forfeited their rights.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And therefore it's our right and our obligation, people, to go get them. But that doesn't take place in these third world Islamic society ruled by Sharia law. What they do is they kill these. I saw them kill a woman on the video, and they think they're heroes. They think that if they do this stuff, and for some reason they get killed during their alleged holy jihad, they go straight to Valhalla or wherever they go to.
Their culture that's Viking. Stop the culture.
I knew you'd like that.
Yeah, the culture, the religion, the ideology leads them to believe, has taught them that.
They go straight to
yeah.
their idea of heaven and get their 72 virgins, which I personally think having to teach 72 virgins how to have sex is a punishment, not a
radio
not a reward,
doc.
But, I'm sorry, that'd be a punishment for me and for JD.
Okay.
All right, so they have given up their rights, and it's our obligation and our right to go get them, just like you said. That's what we do in normal countries. Number 10, we need to answer questions posed by the American people about this war. Questions like, won't our combat operations incite more jihad against us? This notion, which is often put forth as a rational, logical argument by the lefties and by CAIR and the other Muslim apologists, is absurd. When we kill enough jihadi terrorists and the so-called innocent, peaceful Muslim civilians, the current Islamic Caliphate, you notice I said the current Islamic Caliphate, will stop. All warfare against the West will cease to exist. Again, I mentioned to you, and I think on the air, General Blackjack Pershing in the Philippines, what he did to stop the Muslim attacks, terrorist attacks on him while he was the general in charge in the Philippines.
Yes, I just want to know where to ship my pig's blood so that they can dip our bombs in them.
Dip our bombs in it, our bullets, and I guess if allegedly if they come in contact with pigs, then they don't get to go to heaven. The latest vile thing that they've said that they can do in ISIS is they can harvest the organs of living infidels to save Muslim lives. Well, what if those living infidels have been eating bacon every day for the last 50 years or 20 years?
Well, if we're infidels, we have been.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Well, and I told you, why do you think that it is that these Muslims are so averse to pigs? And the story I told you, the analytical the analysis I came up with was this. Remember the story in the Bible that Jesus took out several demonic entities inside of this woman, satanic entities, demons, and cast them out of her body and threw in the pigs, and the pigs ran over the cliff and all died. I'm thinking that might have something to do with why they're so deathly afraid of pigs.
That very well could be, and I think that the important thing to recognize there is from the very beginning, the setup of Islam versus Christianity. It was a 7th century kind of 6th century kind of setup for Well, and from the beginning, even earlier, set it up to be the adversary of Christianity, and that's where the ideology comes from. That's
exactly.
How it
Did you see the other day? Now, here's an example of a true leader and a true civilized man. Bibi Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, put forward a video where he wished Christians around the world a Merry Christmas. That to me is a true leader. He probably doesn't believe that. He's a Jew, so he doesn't believe in the Christianity and doesn't believe in Jesus Christ as the Messiah, and we celebrating Christmas. But he wished us a Merry Christmas. Just like I have a Jewish friend at work. I don't know that much about Hanukkah, but I always wish him a happy Hanukkah, and I think I know a little bit about it, 12 candles and exchanging gifts, and I wished him him and his family happy Hanukkah. And then he sent me a text on Christmas morning wishing me Merry Christmas. What's how civilized people do that, Lou?
That's what civilized people do.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. Number 11, we have to speak the truth to the American people. We have to expose all the lies and deceptions put forth by the Islamic apologists in our nation. We need to identify Islam for what it really is. On one of the next office hours with Dr. A, we're going to have maybe a two-parter. I know you love two-parters. But I will fully explain what ISIS really is, what ISIS really wants, and where they get their marching orders from. The Quran, the Hadith. True conservative American patriots must not allow the lefties and those Muslim apologists to get away with apologizing for or misrepresenting the exceedingly evil so-called religion.
Or funding.
Exactly. I told you Islam is not a religion. If it is a religion, it is a religion of constant warfare, world conquest, enslavement, rape, bloodlust, pedophilia, and death worship.
And it turns out that the Clinton Foundation has been one of the largest donors to those Islamic nations and the nations that support terrorism. There's something new that I saw yesterday. The actual amount of money that they've given them is unreal. The amount of money that they've received. The amount of money that they've received from those countries is unreal versus the amount of money that something like the International Committee of the Red Cross or Red Crescent has received from those countries is minuscule. Now, who is taking those refugees and resettling them? The ICRC. But who is receiving the money from those countries? Well, the Clinton Foundation.
Well, and Mr. Clinton as well, as a sociopath and a pathological liar, which they both are, so is Obama. They don't care anything about anything but power, their own enrichment and their own power. That's all they care about. Mm-hmm. And they'll step on and cut the throat and kill anybody that gets in their way. You know what, people? If Islam is religion, it is a religion of unspeakable evil and horror. And any rational human being, Lou, knows this is true.
Watch a video.
I told you it emanates directly from Satan himself. Number 12 on how to win the war against Islam. Articulate for the American people the difference between being politically correct and being morally correct. Fully embrace moral correctness. Again, being in my close proximity is not a safe space. I'm going to always speak the truth and endure the consequences. Political correctness is the most potent weapon used by the cultural Marxists and the Muslim apologists. It requires that we pretend that facts are other than what they really are. Decision-making is severely flawed and morally incorrect using political correctness as your guiding principle. Moral correctness requires that we call things exactly what they are. Decision-making using moral correctness as the God-given guiding principle, I think, is the only way that we should make decisions. Here's my final analysis. Again, damn the political correctness, full speed ahead. We are at war. You believe that, Lou?
Absolutely. And we didn't declare it. It's not because we declared war. It's because they declared war on us, just like Japan.
Well, again, ISIS is waging war against America and the West, exactly the way the Quran commands them to do.
Right.
Again, I often talk about the Greek philosopher Pericles, and he thought that philosophy, in its original form, as love of wisdom, love of knowledge, love of truth, that's what philosophy was for him. As such, philosophy in ancient Athens, it wasn't a major or a minor field at Meredith or Cornell or UCLA or Harvard or Yale. To Pericles, philosophy was the progression of learning as individual human beings matured in their life. Emphasis was focused on the human process for the Athenian philosophers, the search for knowledge and perception, regardless of what was ultimately revealed to be the truth. We need to actively and continuously seek the truth, people. But you know what? Truth seeking can be an uncomfortable experience for human beings. Why? Because it requires us to use the analytical part of our brain, devoid from any biasing emotion or prejudicial feeling. Therefore, the impetus for true knowledge is not only intellectual curiosity, but also a high degree of moral courage, Lou, and your basic character as a truth seeker. During philosophic activity, trepidation often interferes with the free investigation and the progress of true knowledge in any society. Again, for instance, in the 21st century, vested social interests with their, I use this analogy, snake oil practitioners and their so-called victims of unfair practices in society, they often stand as an obstacle to people actually seeking the truth and discovering what the truth is. The so-called heroes of vested social interests, the Islamic apologists, Black Lives Matter, Planned Parenthood, just to name a few, purposely keep their constituents in the dark with their mind rape, brainwashing techniques. Because their continued ignorance is their ultimate source of financial longevity and their phony status as heroes. It is typically just a few groups in society that construct false heroes because their particular demographic needs champions like Mrs. Clinton asks to be. They need champions to bolster the failed groups of people in society. Again, like we mentioned in the beginning of the show, we have plenty of unsung, unheralded, true American heroes who don't need adulation. And in fact, they actively shy away from that type of acclaim. Socrates, at his trial for treason, made this stunning claim: the unexamined life is not worth living. Meaning that human beings must constantly search for the truth and examine themselves to ensure that they are of virtuous moral character. Again, as I've stated previously, America will never be destroyed from outside, people. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we have allowed our nation to be destroyed from within. Let me say that again. If we falter and lose our freedoms and our country, it will be because we have failed and allowed our nation to be destroyed from within. Meaning that good men and women did nothing to stop treason and the collapse of America. Cicero taught us that a nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but a nation cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known to be an enemy. He carries his banner openly as an enemy, but the traitor moves amongst those within the gates freely. His sly whispers are rustling through the alleys. They can be heard in the halls of government itself. The traitor doesn't appear to be a traitor. He speaks in languages and accents that are familiar to his victims, and he wears their face. He uses their arguments against them. He appeals to their baseness that lies deep within the hearts of all men. A traitor rots the soul of the nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city he infected body politic, so that it can no longer resist his allure. You know what, Lou? A murderer is less to fear. The traitor is the plague. And when you combine with both witting and unwitting accomplices to treason, a vile traitor who was falsely hyped as the hero of a nation, as Mr. Obama and Mrs. Clinton by 47% are right now, if you hype them as the hero and the savior of a certain demographic, you know what, Lou? That individual is the most dangerous person of all. They are dangerous because they masquerade as a savior. They are dangerous because they masquerade as a hero while clandestinely operating under the principle of a cultural Marxist or an Islamic apologist. All the while, they have the nefarious intention of cultivating both Islamic caliphate and communist revolution in America. And they utilize the grievance industry as their springboard. People, listen to Dr. A. Learn from history, because if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat the same mistakes of the past. Your comments on that, Lou?
I wonder when the 47% is going to figure out that they are just as much in danger from this threat as the rest of us.
Just about as soon as their head hits the sand.
Yeah, unfortunately, maybe so. And maybe it's, that's complacency. They don't. They're not.
You want to tell them that? I mean, I keep telling them. Maybe they need to hear your voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Wake up, people. It's not just the 53% of us who work and make a living or that are threatened that are infidels. You all are infidels. It doesn't matter how you make your living or how you survive. If you're part of that so-called 47% who need some sort of government assistance to make it, you're no less an infidel than the rest of us. And they hate you just as much. And you are in danger. They don't go through. Tell me one terrorist attack where the terrorists went through and asked, are you part of the 53 or the 47? Are you part of the 53 or the 47? And if we would stop and allowing our government and the people who you call traitors, and I do not disagree with you because I believe technically they are, when we stop allowing them to divide us along those lines when it comes to things like this, then we'll be a lot better off. And the only people who benefit from that division of people are the politicians.
Exactly. Very astute. You want to wrap up, or you want to take a break and then wrap up?
No, you blew past the break, so let's just keep talking and we'll wrap up. So you have to think about why would any politician put the people that elected them at risk for their own political careers, and step back and think about that.
I told you, I teach my students all the time. They don't care about you. They call you the mass. Even the ones today, they hate your guts.
So stop voting for them, people.
They hate the fact that they've got to come to you every 2 or 4 years to pander to you to get your vote.
And realize we're not talking.
They have to go get the money. They have to fundraise. They hate that. They loathe you. They truly do.
Right.
Trust Dr. A on this one subject. Also, trust me on this one subject. Barack Hussein Obama is a human predator who preys upon weak-minded individuals. He is a cultural Marxist. He is a mind raper who calls out the worst in human nature, counting on your intellectual poverty.
So let's look at a real life
poverty.
Yeah, let's look at a real life example of that. Immediately after the terrorist attacks in San Bernardino, he came out and began to talk about the religion of peace. That was all about his agenda. It was about what he wanted, what he wants people to believe, and not at all about what the American people needed, what we needed to hear, or where the true threat is. He was an apologist for Islam be at the expense of the American people.
Exactly. He hates the American people. He hates America. He was brought up to be that way as a Muslim and as a communist. He hates it. He really does. And we had 6 beloved Marines killed in Afghanistan, I think it was a week and a half ago, maybe not quite that long ago, by a turncoat, a traitor, who blew him up with a bomb strapped to his body. And he has said nothing about it.
Nothing.
He doesn't care. He counts on as a mind raper, people, he counts on your intellectual poverty.
Again.
To foment both Islamic and communist revolution. Don't let Barack Hussein Obama or Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or Bill Clinton get into your head.
Putting our best in harm's way without the tools, without the rules of engagement that they need to protect themselves, and letting them die. I would rather see 100,000 troops in the Middle East get this threat out of the way and let them all come home. Give them the proper rules of engagement.
We could beat them in 4 weeks, Lou, or less.
Yes. Give them the proper rules of engagement and let them do what we've trained them to do, because they want it more than people know. You've got 1 minute, Doc. Wrap it up. Let's get out of here.
I mentioned this last week. I'm going to say it again. This generation has been given a great gift, a great opportunity by God himself. It is the opportunity to defend freedom in its hour of greatest peril. And again, we could win this war against Islam in less than 4 weeks. We use all the weapons in our arsenal. We give our beloved men and women in harm's way proper rules of engagement. Here at home, true conservative American patriots, those ones that cling to their Bibles and cling to their guns and cling to their Constitution, will eventually rise up and save our beloved nation. I believe this with all of my heart. Let freedom ring. God help us. And please always speak the truth and endure the consequences.
That's right. We've done it before. Don't forget the Reagan years. If you aren't aware of what happened during the Reagan years, holler at me on Twitter. I'll love to explain it. Clout thinks I'm an expert. We are.
You are.
On Reagan. I love Reagan. We are just so happy to have been with you today. Thanks for joining us on WNJC Conservative Commando Radio Network. We will be back here next Tuesday at 5 p.m. and you can find us on K98talk.org on Sundays at noon, and you can catch me Thursday nights at 8 p.m. And I often have you with me, do I not, Dr. A?
Oh, I'm honored to do that. And I want everybody out there to learn from this show and your show, and have a great rest of your holiday. Be safe and don't get in trouble during the New Year's Eve festivities.
Have a great week, and we'll see you right here next week. Take care, people.
Wake up.